How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and everything relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we are getting closer and closer to the end of Wandavision. There are only 3 episodes left, but the big question still remains: who is the villain of Wandavision? We are made to believe that it's Wanda, but that seems a little too easy and a little too obvious right now. It's clear that Wanda has control over Westview, but a lot isn't adding up. Wanda says that she doesn't remember how any of it happened. She doesn't remember how it started. This is a clear sign that she wasn't the one that initiated it. The spell over all of the people, the energy hex around Westview, it doesn't seem like she started this. She may control it now, partially, but she didn't start it. So if Wanda isn't responsible for starting these things, who did it? Well, I believe that there are hints given to us in WandaVision episodes 1 through 6 that might tell us exactly who it is. And I'll explain every single one of these hits from WandaVision in this video. If you love Marvel and want to stay up to date on WandaVision and all other Marvel projects coming, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. Now, the first thing that we have to examine here is, why is there a force field / energy field around Westview? Why is the energy hex there? At first thought, we all thought Wanda was creating it to keep everybody out. She has her perfect reality here in this hexagon energy shield. But remember what Monica Rambeau said in episode 4. Hayward said that Wanda is controlling thousands of people, and then Monica Rambeau said that it could have been thousands more if she didn't have put up her own quarantine. So Wanda did this so she couldn't hurt other people. And do you remember what Monica said to Wanda when Wanda came outside of the hex energy barrier? She said, "You brought me in. You trusted me." Why did Wanda bring her in to help? You don't bring somebody into your perfect world to help if it is a perfect world. If you have a perfect world, you don't need help. But Wanda needed help, so she brought Monica in. But what did she need help with? What was Wanda trying to contain in with her energy force field? And to top it all off, Monica said that Wanda protected her when she blasted her across New Jersey and out of the bubble. Wanda is protecting Monica and seems to be trying to contain whatever the threat is. Wanda told Vision, "Do you really think I'm controlling everything? That I am somehow in charge of everybody in Westview?" And then she says, "I don't know how any of this started in the first place." Again, another clear sign that she didn't start it herself. So Wanda is aware of what's happening, and yes, she can control these people now, but she didn't start it. Also remember, Wanda's magic couldn't control the stork. In episode 3, she tried to get rid of the stork, but she couldn't. And then she tried to use her magic on the twins, and it didn't work either. More signs that Wanda isn't 100% in control. Now, I know that I've pushed a lot for Mephisto to be the villain in WandaVision, but I believe that the villain is actually going to be Nightmare, and I believe that Nightmare started it, then gave Wanda control, but not full control. And I believe that Quicksilver could even possibly be Nightmare in disguise. But the question is, what is Nightmare's plan? Well, he feeds off of fear. He specifically draws power from the psychic energies of people's minds. And in the comics, it's when people are dreaming. But of course, we know that Marvel tends to change things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But you could say that the people in Westview are in somewhat of a dream state. Sword used the term awakened when referring to what Vision can do for these people. He can awaken them out of whatever state that they are in. When they are awakened, they can remember everything, their family, who they are. They even realize that they are trapped. But when they're in the other state, nothing. And this could be a so-called dream state for Nightmare in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, Wanda is controlling everybody in this town, and as we've learned, they're all in pain. They're all scared and worried. Just take a look at Norm in episode 5 when Vision awakens him. Norm is more than afraid. He is terrified, and he said that he's in a lot of pain. And also in episode 5, we learned that Monica described being under Wanda's hex as terrifying. This is what Nightmare's plan is, to trap all of these people and have Wanda take control. Think about this, one of the strongest heroes alive, if not the strongest one, a hero that people looked up to, now has people trapped and in pain. This creates even more fear. Somebody who you thought was a hero and would protect you is the one responsible for your pain. But it's not Wanda who actually trapped them, it's Nightmare. Now, I believe that Nightmare, or whatever they're going to call him or her, because it could actually be Agnes, which I'll get to in a bit, but I believe that this villain who is feeding off of fear is going to be a combination of both Nightmare and Mephisto. This wouldn't be the first time that Marvel did this. They did this with Hela in Thor Ragnarok. They gave her powers of Gore, the God Butcher, and this was confirmed by them as well. And let's not forget that Nightmare was confirmed a long time ago to be the villain of Doctor Strange 2, and unless they've completely changed what they had planned, he still should be the villain. In fact, he was supposed to be the villain for Doctor Strange number 1, but they decided to go with Dormammu and leave Nightmare for Doctor Strange 2. So he should be the villain, and we've also had many references to the devil in Wandavision, and not to mention demon spawns in the last episode. Quicksilver literally says unleash hell, demon spawn, and as most of you know, in the comics the twins are actually a part of Mephisto's soul. They are literally demon spawns. That's too many Mephisto references for his character not to be at least somewhat involved, but it's also a little bit obvious now. This is why I think it won't truly be Mephisto, but I think his story and some characteristics will be added to Nightmare. Another big hint that leads me to believe that Nightmare will be the villain is we saw dead Vision and dead Pietro. I believe that these were actually glimpses of Nightmare's power and his control over Wanda. Because remember, Nightmare would be using Wanda to put everybody else in a fearful state so he could feed off that fear. And if he's going to want Wanda to continue to control people and keep their fear alive, he's going to need to do the same to Wanda. And by showing her that Vision is in fact dead, and her brother too, he's showing her that she can't leave this reality if she wants them to stay alive. So the thought of everything collapsing, her perfect reality, and Vision finding out, and Sword breaking in, all of this scares Wanda, which is exactly what Nightmare would want. Now, I actually think that one of the biggest hints towards Nightmare being the main villain is that really weird commercial that we got in episode 6. The Yo Magic commercial with the shark. Now, there are a lot of different interpretations for this commercial. In fact, when I did my breakdown about episode 6, I said it meant something else as well. But I believe that the shark is actually Nightmare. He is feeding off of her magic because her magic is what's causing all of the fear. And it could be how Nightmare himself is surviving. We don't know what Nightmare is going to be like in the MCU, but we do know that in the comics he comes from a different realm, a different dimension. So perhaps Wanda has created a realm, a dimension, a reality in which Nightmare could stay. That way he could survive in the main reality that the MCU exists in right now. But the Hex energy barrier has to stay up. People have to remain in fear so he could feed off that and stay in this dimension. So he is surviving off of Wanda's magic, which is why in the commercial he says stay alive with your magic. Now, as I mentioned, I think Nightmare could be Quicksilver in disguise. Think about it. I don't think anybody really thinks that Quicksilver is actually Pietro. And not to mention, Funko just came out with a Quicksilver Funko Pop, but notice how they said his name. It says Pietro Maximoff in quotes, implying that it's not actually Pietro Maximoff. But why is he disguised as the X-Men version though? Well, if you remember what Wanda said when talking to Billy and Tommy about bringing people back from the dead, Wanda said that there are rules and you just can't bring people back to life. Yes, she brought Vision back from the dead, but he was a synthezoid, not an actual person. So Nightmare probably couldn't use the old Pietro's from Age of Ultron body. So what he could have done is plucked the other Pietro from the X-Men Fox universe out of that universe and brought him into ours. And he could be under the control of Nightmare. He could be possessing him, controlling him much like Wanda is controlling the people of Westview. And he's playing it off very well. Like he is Wanda's brother, he has the same memories, just a different body. And also remember what he said to Wanda when she first saw him. He asked if he could squeeze her to death. More evidence comes from the Halloween episode when they're talking about the reality. Quicksilver said she handled it well. He seems to be aware of everything that is going on with Wanda. He knew that there weren't any kids before what he calls the Halloween special, and he said that he assumes that they were all sleeping in their beds. He says she handled the ethical considerations of the scenario the best that she could. Almost like he knows exactly what she did because maybe he's done it before or he started it out for her. He goes on to say that he is very impressed with how she handled everything, almost like he's done it before and knows what it takes. And he also could be very impressed because it's her first time doing this and maybe she even did some things that he himself couldn't do. which is why he asks how she even did all of it. Now, this could actually be Quicksilver trying to get intel for Nightmare, because if he is under Nightmare's control, Nightmare could have also given him tasks to do, maybe worked out a deal with Quicksilver to eventually let him go, because it's very clear that Quicksilver has a very specific job to do, and he actually states what his job is.
I'm just trying to do my part, okay? Come to town unexpectedly, create tension with the brother-in-law, stir up trouble with the Rugrats, and ultimately give you grief.
So it's clear Quicksilver has a very specific purpose, essentially creating chaos and causing Wanda to grieve and possibly be fearful of what is about to happen to her family. Now, Nightmare could actually be Agnes, who I still think is Agatha Harkness, but they may actually combine Agatha Harkness, Nightmare, and Mephisto into one character that could be Agnes. After all, Norm did say in episode 5, you have to stop her. She's in my head. He didn't specifically say Wanda, and I think that's on purpose. I think it could be Agnes or Agatha Harkness, Nightmare, and Mephisto combined into one character that could be Agnes. But Nightmare's powers being the main powers here. But at the same time, Nightmare could just as easily be controlling Agnes. After all, it did seem like Agnes was under Wanda's hex in the last episode that we saw. It is very clear that someone very powerful is influencing Wanda and helped her in the beginning since she didn't remember starting all of it. And we know that this started when Wanda was experiencing extreme sadness. What better time for Nightmare to strike? And if we look at all of the facts and evidence, it sure does look like this villain could very well be Nightmare and a possible combination of Nightmare and Mephisto. But let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you think that the villain is Nightmare, or do you think that it could be somebody else? Be sure to let me know, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Wandavision or Marvel videos. Don't forget to like the video, and for live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.